And so remember that it's discernment, because we live in a world of deceit. There are a lot of things that look great for us, even though we consciously know and subconsciously know they're not good for us. So we have to start choosing to not make life so hard, because it doesn't have to be hard. It can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be hard. Hey y'all, welcome back to the World of Wellness. This is the 6th episode of the series, A New Leaf. And so today we're basically going to talk about making better decisions and how we stay consistent and making those better decisions in real time. So a very simple thing to grasp is when you do what's good, good things happen. And good within a relative context, right? We're not talking good and evil. We're talking righteous versus unrighteous decisions, right? Choosing to eat things that are good for us versus things that are convenient just because they're fast and easily accessible. Dating people just because it's comfortable or convenient or fun, but is causing you a lack of peace and mental distress. Choosing to stay in places, environments, situations that no longer serve us and never really did. Why do we do that? What is it that keeps us so disconnected from our power to choose and do better consistently? Because I'm sure you've had bouts and times in your life when it's like, okay, you've done good, and then all of a sudden you get off track completely all over again. And it just kind of repeats itself. So before we dive in fully, let's do our mindful minute. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. After this series, the podcast episodes are going to be more, it's still in alignment with like wellness and things like that, but it's not going to be all cohesive. Like with this series, I make sure that the way I've designed the content is one episode after another. It kind of ties in with the previous episode to make sure that it's a workable thing for everybody. So let's do our mindful minute. We're just going to come present with one another, put away the day thus far or the day ahead, and just be here in this moment in time because we're here for a reason. So we're going to start with deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Really, really deep breaths. Relax all the tension in your body. Let it go. You don't need it. In through the nose. Keep breathing. Keep relaxing. One more breath in through the nose. And exhale forcefully. All right, let's get started. So, what is the voice, first of all? Because the title is Hear the Voice. What is the voice? So you can call it your conscience, your Jiminy Cricket, your intuition, the Holy Spirit, whatever it is that you associate with that little voice that tells you you probably shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't do that again, or stop, or wait, or leave. And it's connected very much to the physical sensations that you feel in your body. So when you're in a dangerous environment, even though you can't physically see the danger, you know that something not so great is getting ready to happen because you can feel it in your gut. That's all connected. So I just call it my higher self. It's the source that is not tainted by our humanness. So when we talk about higher self, right, it's not saying that you're not, you know, as great or that you're low. It just means that in your humanness, you have certain limitations. So we can argue what humans can and can't not do. I mean, we can argue what humans can and cannot do all day, but there are just things that you wouldn't typically expect a human to be able to do. For example, jumping off of a 16-foot building and going into flight without a parachute or something to help it, help them excel through the air, or just standing here and levitating out of my seat. Things that we see in movies, but we know, like, if you were to try that, it probably wouldn't work. And that also can be a result of the belief that it's not going to work, right? We can go down that whole metaphysical path out of the matrix and all that all day long, but essentially, when I refer to my higher self or my highest self, that is the me that is pure source, pure God or goddess energy, right? The one that knows all, that is seen all, that directs all, creates all, without any flesh involved. Because the reason we come into these bodies is because we know that we're going to have these experiences to where you have control over certain aspects of it, but you don't have full control. Why? Because you're in the shell, and also because you're surrounded by humans who are also co-creating this reality on earth with you. So you don't hold all of the power. Like, every human has free will, right? You can think of it when you're in a relationship, or even when it comes to your children. You cannot force your will onto someone and make them do as you wish they do for whatever reason, even if it's in their best interest. Why? Because humans have free will. So that's just like source, right? God, whatever you want to call it. We are always given glimpses and given nudges and little whispers of which way to go. But we get to choose whether we walk that path or not. And that's what keeps life interesting, and that's what makes life painful at times. But that's the process of being a human, right? Of realizing all of your potential, reaching self-actualization, ascending, whatever you want to call it, right? Raising a higher vibration in your humanness and on earth. So, free will. The beauty of it is that as a human, you can literally do anything you want to do. But that does not mean that you should. And that just reminded me of when I was coaching. He was a biology professor. And we were talking about him eating certain things or overworking and things like that, about his wellness practices. And I told him, I said, just because you can do something does not mean that you should do it. And he thought that was so profound. And to me, it just makes sense, right? I could walk out into the middle of the train tracks and stand there and wait for a train to come. I probably shouldn't, though, right? I could pick up a bottle of alcohol at 6 a.m. because I'm crying and I'm upset, or I'm heartbroken, or I'm disappointed. But that doesn't mean that I should. Okay? So it's that simple. Why do we do the things that we know are working against us in the long run? So one video that I posted today was about how I tell the kids all the time, my nieces and nephews, when they get in trouble, do things they shouldn't be doing. The first question I always ask them is, why did you do it? And oftentimes they'll say they don't know. Usually they say they don't know because they were acting impulsively, or because they feel guilty and they don't want to tell me what was going through their minds. But when I'm asking them that question, I'm not doing it to be condescending. I'm doing it because I'm genuinely curious of, what is your thought process? What was your thought process in that moment that made you think the action that you took was acceptable or the right thing to do? Because if I can understand where your mind was at that moment, I can help you correct that in the future so that you don't run into the same issue, so that you don't repeat the behavior. So we have to do that with ourselves. Like we're children, we have to parent ourselves, right? So you have to ask yourself, Why is it that I keep spending money that I don't have? Why is it that I keep sleeping in when my alarm goes off and I know I should get up because I have things to do? Why is it that I'm keeping myself stuck when I don't have to be? And know that if you ever feel stuck, if you ever feel limited, it's illusionary. You always have a choice. It may not be an easy choice. It may not be the most convenient choice, but you always have a choice. So with that in mind, we have to make sure that we're understanding what's driving our decisions every single day. Is something you have to be very conscious of, because if you are not, you will continue to make bad decisions. It sounds simple, but Ray Dalio goes deep into decision making and the power of making a good decision and how to make better decisions. You would think that because you're an adult, you know right from wrong, you know what's good or bad, right? You have the foresight to see, if I go this way, this is likely to happen. If I go that way, then that won't happen, right? But we don't always choose that path that leads us to where we say we want to go. And that can be for a number of reasons. We've already talked about self-sabotaging behaviors, keeping yourself in a box, living according to society standards. So we're not going to go into that. You have to have time alone with yourself to ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Right? Make it a point to do that. So let's get into, what is the purpose of this voice? What is the purpose of our highest self speaking to us? Why do we have access to this God mind? Right? One, it's a source of guidance, divine guidance. It brings discernment. It brings protection, right? It brings progression. It brings restoration, and it also brings expansion. So with each of those points, if you're getting guidance, when you feel lost and you don't know where to go, that voice is always there. And sometimes it's a sensation in your heart that's pulling you in a certain direction. And that direction can be scary, but you know that it's going to lead to your highest good in the end. When we talk about protection, we talk about that gut instinct. I always tell my nephews, when you're in a room or you're at a party or you're at a club or whatever, and you had that feeling in your stomach, I don't care how much fun you're having, it's time to go. Because you don't know at what moment the shot's going to pop off. You don't know at what moment the police are going to rush in. You don't know what's going to happen. But you know that if you stick around, you're going to F around and find out. And it's not going to be in your best interest or for your safety. So that voice, it protects us. It protects us from physical harm. It protects us from emotional damage. It protects us from financial mistakes, right, that take time to come back from. And then progression. It's here to guide us down this path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is the way that we were designed to live. We weren't born to suffer at every turn. We weren't born to wake up miserable day after day, week after week, year after year. We were born to live in peace and with ease. That doesn't mean that that's going to be 25/8, the experience that we have, but that's the idea of the design. If you look out into nature, right? I'm thinking of Deepak Chopra. A flower doesn't try to bloom, it just blooms. The ocean doesn't try to have waves, it just does. Water doesn't try to take the shape of the thing that is holding it, it just does it. That's how we're designed to be and live and experience life. But we don't. Why? For several reasons, okay? And restoration. When life is falling apart, when we have fallen apart or have died inside, that voice that tells us, eat this, take a walk, drink some water, have some fresh air, that's restoring our spirit, restoring our energy, restoring our potential. Picking up a book, that's restoring our brain power and reconnecting all those neural circuits, right? All those brain cells, getting them back talking to one another. So if you've ever been in a deep depression, you know that it kind of feels like your mind is slowed down. And you at times can feel almost like you're moving in slow motion. Because your body is dying, your soul is dying. So when you listen to that voice that's telling you, I know you don't want to talk to somebody, but you need to get some help, that's trying to restore you, that's trying to bring the life back into you because you got something to do on this earth. Okay. And the last point, expansion. We're here to grow and expand, to experience, to learn, to reproduce, sharing that wisdom, sharing that knowledge, sharing our gifts. So that's what that voice is here to do. So it's not here to harm you. Even though the things that it leads you to do can challenge you, can force you to have to overcome some fear, some self-doubt, some unworthiness, leave places that are familiar for us, leave situations that once felt good to us, that we're holding on to the hope that it'll be good to us again. That is what it's here for. So I want you to keep that purpose in mind throughout the rest of this conversation. And we're not going to go very, very far on this. We're just going to go into how you know when you're listening to that voice, how to hear the voice, and how to stay in alignment with it. So better decisions are going to lead to better experiences. This is why this episode is important. We talked about doing the shadow work. We talked about healing that emotional trauma, uprooting the things that have hurt us and made us miserable, broke us down, right? We've addressed all of that. We talked about wellness. We talked about all the things. And now I want us to start moving toward the light. That voice is guiding you toward the light. So how do you know that you're in alignment with that voice, with your highest self, with that guidance? You look at the fruits of your life. You look at your finances, look at your relationships, look at your physical environment, look inside of your heart, feel your heart. How strong does your spirit feel? How does your body feel? Are you in good health? Right? Are you mentally well? That tells you, because they talk about the fruits of the spirit, and I don't know all of them, but I know one of them is peace. Okay? That is how you know. That alone. Do you feel peace? Are you trusting your path? Are you trusting that in the end, everything is going to be okay? Are you trusting that right now, everything is actually okay? Right? And that takes building a relationship with your highest self. So how do we do that? How do we build a relationship and stay anchored? For one, you work the alignment formula. Body, mind, spirit, like we talked about. Your wellness practice, your spiritual routines, your meditations, your prayers. You have to be consistent. Think of it as a relationship with your highest self, or with source, or however you, whatever, right? If you meet a guy or girl, and or even family. Let's talk about family, because we always talk about relationships, right? If you have that one family member that's calling you, and you know when that phone rings, it's like, oh, they want something. Like, what is it this week? What do you need? Is it money? Is it a ride? What is it? Right? Versus the person that just calls and checks on you. The cousin that's like, hey, somebody just told me to call you. Are you good? Like, what's going on? You want to hang out? Just because they love you and they want to see you, not because they're trying to take your energy or take anything from you or be intrusive in your life. They just genuinely rock with you, vibe with you, and they enjoy you and want to stay connected with you. You want to be that good cousin to your highest self. So what does that look like? Being intentional about reaching out to it. Being intentional about staying connected with it. Even when it's not convenient. So the biggest thing for me is, if you can't do meditation, if you just have a strong resistance to it for whatever reason, or you really struggle with it and you're not willing to let the process get better, mindfulness. We hear this term all the time, but it's essentially just doing what you're doing while you're doing it. That means having a clear mind. And so in this moment, there are things that are popping in and out of my mind. I'm looking out my window. I'm seeing people, cars going by. I'm remembering like certain things, but I keep bringing myself back to the present. That's the same thing. That's mindfulness. So let's say you're getting up and you're brushing your teeth or you're driving to work. How many times have you driven to work or back home and you're like, I don't even remember the drive? That's because your mind was everywhere but where you were. So being mindful, being present, that's how you stay in contact and grow deeper into that source, into that presence, staying in your body. So even when you stray from it, your connection to it is so tight that you kind of just get snapped back into alignment. You don't let like the higher self, the source, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, it won't let you get too far off the path. You won't let yourself get too far off the path. Because like you start to feel these sensations of, let's say you're dealing with someone and it's causing you a lack of peace. It's causing you bad sleep or a job, right? At some point, if you've been in alignment and if you've been in tune with your higher self, you're going to say, you know what? This isn't even worth it, right? Everything is a trade-off and a sacrifice. So at some point you'll be like, this isn't even worth it. Like, I'm willing to take the loss. I'm willing to cry the tears. It'll get better eventually. Been through this before, right? And the more connected you are with that, right? The more that you're nourishing your body the way that you should, the more sunlight, fresh air, good water, all that good stuff, laughter, fun, progression in your goals, making good financial decisions. The more you do that, the more your desire for that will grow. So when you don't do those things, you'll feel off kilter and it'll call you back to it. So that's how you want it to be. But you want to get it to where you don't even, you're a human, so you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that are for short-term gratification. It just is going to happen. But that pain, let that be a trigger to say, okay, I need to get back in alignment. I need to get back on track. Because if you don't, the further you go down that wrong path, I will say the unrighteous path, I won't say wrong, because eventually it's going to lead you back to where you need to be, right? For your highest good, on the path of least resistance, because wherever you are is where you need to be, because that's going to lead you to your next, to your greater. So even if you're in a situation right now, because you've made bad decision after bad decision for years or months or whatever, know that you're there to let that pain get so bad to where you jump out the pot and you're like, okay, it's not worth what it's costing me. It's not worth my family relationships. It's not worth the anxiety that it's causing me, the stress, right? And you get back on track. So know that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, but that doesn't mean that you're on the path of least resistance. Okay? Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that. So how do we make better decisions? For one, you listen to the voice, but when we talk about it from an application standpoint. So for me, when it comes to decisions, I was somebody who was very indecisive, partly because I didn't trust myself. So I had to read a book called Decide, and it was a great book. But essentially, it just teaches you either decision you make is going to lead to an outcome. So you, instead of wasting time, right, commit to something so that you can start moving forward instead of just running around in circles or being stagnant. So when it comes to making decisions, I'm going to tell you what you don't want to do, and then we're going to talk about what you do want to do, okay? You don't want to make decisions when you're very emotional, because Coach Stormy always says when emotion is high, logic is low. You're not thinking straight. You need to cool off, you need to relax, you need to release, and then you need to come back and think on what to do next. So don't make decisions when you're highly emotional. Don't make decisions when you're under extreme stress. Don't make a decision because you're worried about time running out. When you feel rushed, if anybody is ever pushing you to do something quickly, the answer is always no. That's just a good rule of thumb to have, okay? And don't make decisions out of fear or desperation. Those are the things that you know, if I choose while I'm in these states of mind, if I make those decisions based off of these 5 things, It's not going to end well. What you do want to do, you want to make decisions from a place of power, from a place of faith and knowing and trust, from a place of belief in self, and from a place of love and peace. Ask yourself, how is this decision that I'm making right now going to affect me in the long run and the people around me? You know that you're making a good decision when you can say, okay, sit down with yourself and you can make it a writing exercise, or you can just talk it out with yourself, or just think it. And take yourself down these paths, okay? Decision A, decision B, decision C. If I do A, let's fast forward 30, 60, 90 days. What's life going to look like for myself, my finances, my heart, my family, my peace? Decision B, same thing. Decision C, same thing. Then common sense is going to tell you, oh, okay, see, it is. It's very easy once you reflect on that to make the right decisions, to make the best decisions for you on that path, to take you on that path of least resistance. So for me, something I've been resisting for a while now is learning SEO for YouTube. Because I know, I ain't here to toot my own horn, but I am. I know my content is valuable. I know that it can be life-changing because it is for me. And I know that it's something that more people need to be exposed to. And I also know that it's another stream of potential income, which is all great things. But if other people's channels are growing, that means they're doing something that I'm not doing. And the issue's not my content. So what's the issue? My strategy. I've told myself for the longest, okay, like I even met this amazing guy. We ended up like being romantically involved. And I'm like, girl, he was probably putting your life to help you blow your YouTube up. And here you are falling in love and stuff. But I'm a lover girl. And he was a beautiful human. Shout out to you. But he was a software engineer, and he was telling me like, hey, I can help you with your SEO and all that stuff. And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, I'm not taking YouTube that serious, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm at a place where it's like, if you're putting your energy into something, you need to take it serious. Like, go big or go home. I'm always all or nothing, but with YouTube, with content creation for me, I never wanted it to be the only way I make money because I don't like the internet. Like, believe it or not, the reason that I take these social media breaks is not always because something's going on in my life. It's simply because I don't want to be making content. I don't want to be on the internet. But it's something that I'm called to do because I have messages that I'm being called to share for myself and for other people. So I take that as a serious responsibility. So even though I don't want to do it, I do it anyway. So now the next step is, if you're going to spend your time and your energy and attention doing this, maximize it. How do I maximize it? You have to learn the strategy. So that's what I'm going to have to do. And I've accepted that, right? Because the other side of the coin is, okay, if you continue to just make your content and post once a day, how long is it going to take you to reach 1 million people? And in that time that it's taking you, because you're choosing not to learn something that can like flip the switch for you, how many souls are suffering because they don't know you? They haven't seen your face. They haven't heard your voice. Think about that. So for you, what is it that you're called to do that you've not done for whatever reason? Because you downplay it, or you say that you don't really want it, even though you really want it. You just don't know if it's possible for you. In all that time that it's taking you to finally get it together and fully commit to it, how much further could you have been? How much could your life have changed? How many lives could you have changed? This is why we have to make better decisions. And it's not going to be easy decisions. Some of the best decisions I've ever made were some of the hardest. But they pay big in the long run. And that's why we have to talk about delayed gratification. This is a concept that I learned when I was doing ROTC in high school. It was First Sergeant Brown. God bless him. I hope he's still living. He was great. Him and Major Busky. But First Sergeant Brown, he would talk to us about, both of them, they would talk to us about like finances and discipline and all those fundamental things that you need as you're becoming an adult. And one big lesson I remember was the lesson on delayed gratification, because I was so fascinated with it. It's very simple, but I saw the potential of it. So delayed gratification is choosing to wait for the good to come, versus immediate gratification is, I'm going to eat the piece of cake because I want to eat the piece of cake and it's sweet and it's going to taste good right now. Delayed gratification will say, I could probably have the cake first, but I should probably eat this broccoli. Because if I eat the cake on an empty stomach, I'm probably going to get a stomach ache, and then I'm going to feel lazy, and I'm going to get sleepy, and then I'm not going to be able to do what I need to do for the rest of the day. That takes you thinking a little bit further than that instinct to grab for something that's not necessarily the best thing for you right now. Just because you want it right now, just because your flesh is calling for it. So delayed gratification, that's something you want to write on a Post-it note, put on your phone screen, and remind yourself every day that you have to do your future self a favor. And it's not going to be convenient. It's not going to be fun. It won't always taste good, and it won't always feel good. But in the end, it will be worth so much more for you, because it's going to bring you so much, versus choosing that immediate decision that, okay, you get a quick hit of pleasure, but what's the cost? Like I say, every time, everything has a trade-off, and every time you make a decision, you're sacrificing something. So what is it that you're willing to sacrifice? What is the cost you're willing to pay for a better life? Or for choosing to stay where you are? What's it costing you? And every day, that's compounding. Versus every day you're making good deposits on your life, that's also compounding. So just look at that side to side, okay? And we're wrapping up. You must learn to discern, or you will die while you're still alive. Okay? And that sounds dramatic AF, but it's so real. You must learn discernment. Why? Because we live in a world of deceit. We live in a world of temptation. We live in a world of immediate gratification, of attention seeking, of desperation. So if you're not able to judge and be a good judge of character, a good judge of decision making, right? You're going to always lead yourself to be deceived and allow yourself to be deceived. And eventually that's going to lead you down a path of, my life is such a mess that I don't know if I have the strength to clean it up. Which is where you may be, but know that even if you end up in that spot again, yes, you can do it. But you gotta work the steps, right? It works if you work it, like they say in the 12-step program, right? And so remember that. It's discernment, because we live in a world of deceit. There are a lot of things that look great for us, even though we consciously know and subconsciously know they're not good for us. So we have to start choosing to not make life so hard, because it doesn't have to be hard. It can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be miserable. It doesn't have to be full of pain. And sometimes that means you have to go through these types of seasons of loneliness, seasons of being looked down on by the world because you're choosing to invest in your education, right? Or invest in your business versus investing in clothes, shoes, material possessions, and trying to show off to the world or go on vacations. There are seasons in my life. I remember my Instagram account that I had last year, this one guy commented, and he was like, is all you do is work and work out? And I'm like, at the moment, yes, that's the season that I'm in. Maybe you should try it and see what it does for you. People are so used to shiny objects and seeing all these extravagant things, but they don't see what's paying for those trips. The days where all you do is work and work out and eat out of a can, right? Getting it out the mud, living on a couch, sleeping on the floor. Those are the days that create those moments or those years of your life in the future where you just get to play. And even in those days, there's still work, right? So discernment. I just want to close with discernment. Look it up. Get it in your spirit. Pray for divine discernment. Know that you already have it, but ask for the courage and the power to be brought up out of you to use it. Okay? I hope y'all caught all that. I pray that you listen to the voice. I pray that you're healing. I pray that you're well. And I want you to know that even if you make a bad decision, it's not the end all be all. You can recover. It's going to take some healing, some licking of your wounds, but you're going to be all right. Okay? Stay connected with me on IG and TikTok at TheWorldOfTaj. I will also be posting more episodes every Sunday. We have one more episode in this series. We're almost there. I pray that you've applied it, shared it with somebody who needs it. The next episode is 16 Carriages. Shout out to Beyonce. But in the next episode, we're really going to talk about goals and choosing goals that are in alignment with who you are now and how that shifts over time. And we're going to go into a little bit of my personal story when it comes to entrepreneurship and all those types of things. So if you've enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next time, same place. Okay, your favorite wellness coach signing out. Peace.